Juneteenth is in the news right now. If in case you missed it, the United States Senate has just passed a bill that would declare Juneteenth a holiday. That's why people like Earth Hadjo and Yanajaha Hill hooked us up with Kimberly Jones. Thank you for joining us. I want to give you an opportunity to just introduce yourself and tell us, what you do and what Juneteenth means to you.
Sure. So my name is Kimberly Jones. I grew up in Illinois, but I now live in Georgia. I am an author, so I write books about social justice. I have one book that's available now called I'm Not Dying With You Tonight, that is about two girls who survived the night in race riots. And I have two books coming in the fall. One is entitled Why We Fly, about two girls who take a knee at a high school football game and the fallout from it. And then How We Can Win, which is my first adult book, because both of my other books are for teenagers. I write for teenagers to give them tools to have these difficult conversations. So I have my first adult book, which is nonfiction, called How We Can Win, which examines race and economics in this country. Juneteenth is something that, I struggle with whether or not it's something we should celebrate or commemorate. Should we be in celebration, as it is still connected to one of the original sins of the colonizers, which is, slavery? And but then I'm like, or are we commemorating? Are we commemorating it for our ancestors, for the growth that has happened thus far? So I struggle with that. And I know a lot of people struggle with that, but also, for Black, brown, and indigenous people in this nation, jubilation is something that we deserve as well. We all deserve moments and times to celebrate because of the atrocities that we faced in the past and continue to face. And so, but for just, to have a conversation about Juneteenth is an interesting celebration, is in and of itself an interesting moment, because what it discusses is the fact that nearly 2 years after slavery was legally abolished, we still had people who were working in captivity. And that Juneteenth celebrates particularly those in Texas and an area of Texas, Galveston, Texas, who found out they were free a year and a half after they had already been freed. And so it really commemorates the final group of people that were formerly enslaved people that got access to their freedom.
I thank you for that. It's a very important question to ask ourselves. Is this time for celebration? Is this time for commemoration? Is this time to dig in our heels and prepare for battle? Because as you can see, people like those who founded the 1776 Commission, who want to deny that there's any racism in this country to begin with, who want to deny that Colin Kaepernick did the right thing. We talk about these celebrations and how not celebrations, but how these different challenging events in our, not our history, but in our story as a collective in this country who have inherited the legacies of slavery and of genocide and of working class oppression, not to mention the oppression of Mother Earth and the extractive financial complex that uses all of these different aspects of our lives to divide us, to take advantage of us, and to further ensure that the racist founding of this country, the systemic nature of the American body politic and the institutions. In the show, I've read that more Black men and women are in prison right now than were ever enslaved. So that tells us that slavery only changed forms with the passing of the 13th Amendment. I know that you're coming to us from Atlanta, Georgia, and I know that Georgia was a fierce and intense battleground state right now. And everything that Trump brought to the table, everything that Trump expressed, the hate, the division, the fear, the vitriol, the dying gasp of white supremacy, it all hinges on our ability to flex when we have to. And I want to thank you in Atlanta for doing that and making sure that we won the Senate. We, not we, the blue team. Yes, there's good people in the blue team. Mm-hmm. But we can't forget Biden won because Black America showed up for him. So he's got to deliver. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to tell us what you've been up to in Atlanta and how you see the Black community in this country flexing over the next 3 years of Biden's term.
Yeah, before they passed some of the most atrocious voter suppression laws we've seen in a very long time, I, along with with a large coalition, multiple organizations, we came together and formed a coalition, and the coalition was called the Georgia Vote. And we protested in front of the Capitol for 30 days. For 30 days straight, whether it rained. At one point, we chained ourselves to the Capitol in order to fight HB House Bill 531, which, again, is one of the most repressive voter suppression bills we've seen in a long time. And it doesn't just affect African Americans, because it does, but it affects all minorities. It affects predominantly poor people, which is always the group that is, brutalized in this nation as a collective. And we fought that bill to the death, and it still passed. But what a lot of people didn't realize is that it was a nationally coordinated act, that bill was written by one lobbying group. And then they found people to basically at the state level, which is where we pay the least amount of attention and is where we need to pay the most attention. At the state level, they found reps in the GOP to support that bill and to bring that bill in. And so they adjusted it state by state based on the state's constitution and what they knew they could get past those state legislators. And then over 48 states had a similar bill. And people were like, that's so weird. And I'm like, well, it's not weird. It's a coordinated act. It's one lobbying group that wanted this, that didn't want to attack it at the federal level, who attacked it at the state legislator. And they were able to continue to get these bills passed from state to state. And so that's one of the things that I've been fighting is voter suppression. One of the things that I teach people is that it's key and critical that marginalized people register to vote, but not just for the sake of voting, also because the jury rolls are pulled from the voter rolls. And so if we want to give a fair shake to our people, we have to be jurors. We have to sit in those jury boxes and be the voice of reason and understand collectively what's happening to marginalized people and what's happening to poor people in this nation. And so the only way to do that is to register to vote so that you go into the jury pool and do that. And so when you make it complicated for people to vote, you're making it complicated for them to be jurors. You're making it complicated for many other fragments that extend from that. And that is a problem. It's a complete power grab. And it's a direct response to what we did here in Georgia by flipping this state blue for the first time in a long time.
Wow.
But we are going to fight it in court. We are fighting that bill in court, and we're also in support of the federal bill H1, which will set a precedent that will make all of these bills null and void.
I remember this when the sister was arrested for questioning what the governor and them were doing behind closed doors, and these are the type of last grabs, signs of desperation when people know they are losing power, and this racist demographic in this country is being exposed on almost a daily basis. And we always say that, it's not like racism didn't exist, just the smartphone didn't exist before. So now we're able to catch everything on camera. And what you're saying about voter suppression, people not only need to show up in the streets. And by the way, thank you for making that video, because I know what it's like to have to try to fit within these activist paradigm roles where we're not supposed to engage in property damage. Like in a capitalist system, that's seen as violence. Well, you know what? It's not violence.
Yeah.
And it is the rhyme of the unheard. It is the poetry of the oppressed, because we don't own capital. Capital owns us. And you said that in the video. The Lakota People's Law Project, along with the group called Demos, has a lawsuit against the state of South Dakota. Now, of course, I'm more familiar with what goes down in indigenous country, but we had a chance to go down to Georgia and make sure that no racist was going to win this year's election. So I'm looking forward to supporting your work, because you're obviously dope. You're obviously a powerhouse. You're someone that we need to link up with. And I thank you for giving us some of your time, because I know you got big things coming, big things popping. And I've been, you've got a book already out.
Yes.
And you can buy that anywhere. You've got 2 books about to be released this fall. Like, where can people find you? Where would you like to direct people who can find you, find out what you got going on tomorrow, or any other item that they might want to know about? Like, where can people connect with you?
People can connect me. I'll tell you the 2 best places to connect with me are my website, which is kimjoneswrites.com. It's www.kimjoneswrites.com. On Instagram, I think it's in next to my name is my Instagram is at Kimberly Latrice Jones, which is there next to my name. And then on Twitter, I am at Kim Latrice Jones. So it's Kimberly Latrice Jones on Instagram, and it's Kim Latrice Jones on Twitter. And then my website is www.kimjoneswrites.com. Listen, you guys also have to come down. Earth will get you all the information. We do a retreat every 3rd Sunday of the month here in Georgia, with Earth and with my dear friend Yanajaha Lone Wolf. And we do and my friend Keith comes down from Oklahoma, and like people come in from all over the country, and we do a healing retreat for Black and Indigenous people here every 3rd Sunday of the month. It's called Revolutionary Healing. We try to either keep it free for the people, or we try to keep it at least a minimum, keep the tickets under $50 if there is something that's happening at it that month. And we reconnect to the earth. We do healing sessions. We bring people in because, I will tell you this. My biggest influence is a brother that I want y'all to look up named Rudy Lozano. He was a Latinx brother who was killed in the 80s for the work that he was doing. But that he was killed execution style. And so I hate to say, but that lets you know how powerful his work was, that they felt the need to do that to him. And Rudy especially was uniting Black, brown, and Indigenous people. That's what he did. He utilized the power of his Black and brown coalition to get people elected, to get laws changed, to do grassroots lobbying, because he understood that we were stronger together. He understood that we were more powerful together. And anybody who's seen me talk on any interview knows that when they ask me who influenced me, I say Rudy Lozano. I always say Rudy Lozano. I had the pleasure of going to high school with one of his sons, Pepe, who I'm still very close with. And I'm actually working on a book about his life that'll be out later as well. But I just really feel deep down in my heart that, hey, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Mm-hmm. And that, and that at the end of the day, particularly for poor people in this nation who are the most brutalized, but specifically for Black, Indigenous, and Latinx people who, for some reason, with all of our regal glory and like magnificence, there seems to be a target on our back for some reason. And to me, in some ways, that's expressive of how dope we are, because I'm not intimidated by anybody who's not dope. So, I mean, they must be super intimidated by those three groups in particular. They go out of their way to create laws to brutalize and antagonize us, and to not give us our fair shake of what is due to us. Because there is some onus that this nation has to Black, brown, and indigenous people, and it's time they start paying up.
We're going to continue to show up. And I know everybody in our listening audience, that was the first time I had seen that video live like that. And it hits you. It hits you right in the core, because you're expressing those aspects of our lives. Yeah. These aren't something that happened to our ancestors. This happened to our grandmothers, our grandfathers. They were indentured. They still are exploited. The American working class is on our side. Sometimes they don't know it. Sometimes they go and they fall victim to all this 1776 Commission rhetoric. Yeah. But I know if we continue to show up, we continue to demand that Juneteenth not just be a holiday, but that reparations, land back, our own financial systems, recognizing our own economic impact. Those are things that have to happen in order for us to achieve equality. Because in the back of my mind, you know, there's a lot of people who are militant, who want revenge, who want to be made whole, because our souls, our spirits are grieving for our own dignity, our own brilliance, which has been usurped. They deliberately, the colonial aspect has deliberately tried to change the way we think about ourselves. And I know, yes, I just now thought of Tupac, because today is Tupac's birthday. And he was somebody who would have been at revolutionary healing. He would have been at Yanajaha with Keith and Earth and the whole crew. And one of our team members, Danny Paul, made it down to revolutionary healing. I hope that the rest of our squad, we just need to link up there in Atlanta. And anybody who's in the Atlanta area, I would advise that you find out about revolutionary healing. And sister, I just want to say that hearing you speak about the Tulsa massacre, what they call the Tulsa race riot, or those type of things. I didn't even know what Rosewood was. I did not know what that is. We do not learn that in school. In our school systems, we don't learn the truth about indigenous people or Black folks. And so we have to continue to push. And I just want to give you a chance to close us out, to give us any kind of closing comments, and maybe we'll do another show in the future whenever there's always going to be an appropriate reason to do that. But again, everybody, this is Kimberly Jones. We hollered out her Twitter handle, Kim Latrice Jones, and Kim Jones Writes. Is that right?
Yes.
Kim Jones Writes. Please look her up. Purchase her book that is already out. You do not want to miss that. It is called I Am Not Dying With You Tonight. Mm-hmm. And that is a powerful title. But I want to give you a chance, you know, and there's no time constraints on this, but I don't want to keep you longer. You know, you got things going on. You got things going on tomorrow. I don't know if you can talk about that. But thank you for coming onto the show. You're more than welcome anytime to come on Cut to the Chase.
Yes, I thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so sorry that I was so late and I didn't get to spend more time with you guys. I'm loving listening to the conversation. And I just want to say this, you know, Earth knows this is my war cry that I say all the time. I just want us as marginalized people to extend more grace to each other. As we go on this battle, as we fight this fight, as we try to do what's right for us, I want us to be kinder to each other. I want us to extend grace to each other. I want us to give patience, show more patience towards each other. Because what we are battling economically, emotionally, the traumas, the childhood traumas, as well as the generational trauma that is affecting us, I want us to be conscious of that and extend each other more grace. Extend grace to your uncle who has a drinking problem. Extend grace to your cousin who can't seem to get it together. Because what has happened to us collectively as people is so horrific and horrendous. To expect well answers from sick people makes no sense at all. And so that is part of why we started revolutionary healing, is because we realize our people need to heal.
Yeah.
Our people need comforting. They need grace. They need us to treat each other well. I always say, you know, you go to McDonald's 100 times and the ice cream machine is down. That's a universal norm. Everybody knows that. But you still patronize them. You still return. You still go back and give them the hope that maybe one day the machine is working. And if it's not, you don't mind. You just go on and order what else it is that you order. We need to extend that same level of grace to each other. We need to extend that same level of patience towards each other. When you go into the business of a marginalized person and things that aren't all together, like it's, you know, like you're used to seeing in more commercialized business, recognize that that business owner has been redlined to death and did not receive the loans that their white counterparts received. Recognize that that person probably started that business with a small grant of their 401k, a loan from a family member. And so they may not have a year's worth of operating funds in their account. They may be counting on their day-to-day sales to get them through the day. So they may not have all the napkins. They may be a little short-staffed. They may not be so quick on the draw, but extend them grace. Stand there in that moment before you criticize them and say, what can I do to help? It may just be a smile. It may be coming back the next day if you notice they didn't have napkins, and you go into Restaurant Depot and bringing them a case of napkins and says, I just want to contribute to your success. Let's work heavily on being kind to each other as we grow and navigate through this space.
Wow. You know what? That's true across all these oppressed demographics, is we have to forgive each other. We have to support each other, lift each other up, stop hating on each other. You know, we got to allow each other to shine. Otherwise, the same rich cats are going to stay rich for another 100 years, and we're always going to be fighting over the scraps. I hear that and I feel that, because it's the same way in the indigenous community. We're doing our best. It's a miracle that we have survived, not only as indigenous people, but that Black liberation has survived, that we all know exactly what this country can represent, and we are taking our place every single day. Now we, with our non-racist white allies, the descendants of European colonizers who are also waking up to the traumas, to the horrors, to the legacies of colonization. They are unifying with those in the oppressed classes to carry out those dreams that our people fought and died for, and also were assassinated for. Like you talked about Rudy Lozano. That is real talk. There is a lot of people who gave their lives so that we could be here building this bridge. So again, this is Kimberly Jones. Please throw her Twitter handle up there one more time, at Kim Latrice Jones. I look forward to having another conversation, another discussion. Thank you for showing up tonight, and we will see you soon.
Thank you guys for having me, and I would love to return.